Baba knows the way. For Joseph Baba Ifa, Baba knows the way. We follow the signs. He walks with the Orisha through sacred lines. He speaks with the ancients. He honors the drum. He carries the wisdom where we all come from.
Where are you from, sir?
Oh, I'm from Key West, Florida.
Now, when people think Key West, they think of drinks, colorful shirts, and
Yes.
vacations. What is Key West to you? What is the real Key West?
At Key West, when I was born in 1962. My parents immigrated from Cuba in 56. So obviously it was a small town. It was a fishing town. We all got along together. There was Cuban immigrants there. There was even there was a place called the St. Carlos, which it was the I guess you could call it the embassy for a while, and it was a patrimonio, or I guess I don't know, how would you say in English patrimonio, like the
Patrimony, like was it like an embassy?
an embassy
space?
that belonged to Cuba.
Okay.
It was built there, and then basically Jose Marti, which is one of the original, which is the father of the country, like George Washington is for the United States.
Yes, sir.
Resided there for a while. While he was in New York, he came back and forth, and he was getting funds for the initial Cuban Revolution of the late 1800s.
Yeah.
So then in 56, my parents got there. There was a lot of Cuban immigrants. It was a cigar town just like Tampa was.
Oh.
And it was a fishing town when I was growing up. So it was a small town. We used to fish, go down to the end of the street of White Street Pier or South Roosevelt Boulevard area, and we'd fish. We'd get crabs, grouper, whatever you could get your hands on. We even went shrimping and stuff like that, and that's how we grew up. It was a small town. You'd sleep with your doors open. It's nothing like it is nowadays.
It sounds pretty wholesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
And I remember speaking to you, it was the real first time that I understood that there was like a Cuban population down there. Because, as Hialeahans, we don't think there's anything under us, other than like Little Havana or whatever.
Well,
so
yeah. But if you think about it, there's even in the cemetery, there's a monument for the martyrs of the 10-Year War, in the Cuban Revolution, in the 1800s, and all that. So there's in the late 50s, early 50s, late 50s, you had a ferry that went back and forth.
Yeah, because you have the marker over there, right? 90 millas.
Right, it's a marker that's 90 miles. And then they had a ferry that was that would cross, and you could go to Cuba on a ferry or through I guess it's called Aerolíneas Q, which is the Cuban aviation before the revolution of '59. Then you could go down to Cuba for the weekend. What, $20?
You'd be back for dinner, I heard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there was people who leave, they'd have lunch over there and be back in time for dinner.
So obviously we grew up. I grew up during the missile crisis and back and forth, and then at some point we went to Cuba, and then we came back. And then in the 60s, I grew up in Cuba. So like late 60s, by 69, 67, I was already in school, second or third grade. So I grew up in Key West most of the time.
So you were born here?
I was born in the United States.
But you got stuck over there. I remember the story
we went over, and I was I was an American. Because my parents came over in 56. I was born in 62. We went over thinking, well, I didn't go over. I mean, I had to go over as a small child.
Sure.
But my parents went over thinking that everything was going to be, what was promised or whatever. So obviously, 67 years later, the difference, right?
Well, it's wild speaking to somebody such as you that has seen all these different chapters, especially, even though it's not a political channel, there's a lot of things going on right now.
Yeah.
And I think about people such as your parents, people such as my grandmother, people who, just to see the headlines that we're seeing now of what could be happening very soon, it's very emotional. Because
yes, it is.
They never got a chance to see that.
I already told everybody at work that I'm probably going to take a week off. And I told my wife I'm going to disappear for a week, probably, and go down to Miami and have a bottle of rum.
Just with the brothers there and just see what happens. Your mother and father, Cuban people.
Yes.
What can you tell me about them? Were they spiritual people? Were they involved in Ifa and Orisha?
Like most things. Yes, they were involved in Orisha, but obviously before Orisha, they were involved in spiritualism.
Like my abuela.
All right, yeah. So obviously the spiritualism, it all depends what kind you practice. You know that the Cuban practice is basically more, they have scientific spiritualism, which is just the table, the water, and and nothing else,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And then you have what they call a cruzado,
For sure.
which is the one that we use nowadays, which is more prevalent.
The Siakara.
Yes, exactly. So, and then they also have in the interior of the country, they have one that's almost like the Siakara, but it's called cordoneros. So it's a different spiritual, and it's standing up, and their songs are a little different than what you're used to. And it's constantly in movement, and it dates back to the Tainos that they used to do most of the stuff I've been able to read on, or not research because I'm not a researcher, but the most of the stuff that I've read on is that they worked that area and they would like go around in a circle, and they had some intonations that they would do. There was basically something that sounded like a yes, hey, right, and they would work that, but through that rhythmic motion. And it was always counterclockwise, just so you know.
Yeah.
Through that rhythmic motion and the singing of those spiritual transmissions, as they call it in Spanish, spiritual chants, spiritual songs, transmission, la transmisión espiritual. They would create the spiritualism, and that's how they would work. And it's a totally different thing than what we're normally
Sounds
used to.
very indigenous, very rustic.
Yes, very rustic. And everybody works, but it's different. So it's a different thing. But we were exposed to that. My parents were exposed to that.
Wow.
And then we were also exposed to the traditional Lucumí, Ifa worship. Everybody knows, Cuba's Chango, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Los platanitos, el Congo y el Carabalí. Everybody's got something.
But before that, all the Cubans believe in Santa Barbara, right? So they all would have their Santa Barbara, and there was always a custom of putting an apple to Santa Barbara, which was associated with Shango, right?
Of course.
Okay, so then, of course, that's how everything came. And then, of course, my mother had Ochun done, and my father had Chango done.
Oh, okay. So they were both crown people.
Yeah, they were. Yes, they were initiated. Yes.
So from a very young age, you were exposed. You're seeing these things almost immediately. Your elders, the people that you came in under, beginning with your Orisha elders and whatnot. What was it like meeting your madrina? How did that relationship begin? What was her name?
Okay. When I initially I come to this tradition. My father already knew about it, and he was in communication with his godmother in Cuba, which her name was Maria Lorena, and she lived in La Habana Vieja, in Figura, I think number 58, entre Monte y Corrales. Mm-hmm. So the building is still there to this day.
Wow.
Or I think it was 48. The address was 48. Mm-hmm. So he was, and they were telling that, that I was going to have spiritual issues that I would need to get resolved, and so on and so forth. Which, of course, living in the United States, they didn't think about it. They left that behind in Cuba, so on and so forth. They still were spiritual, but they didn't expect it to be to the extent that it was happening.
Well, when you're coming over, you're trying to be as American as possible.
Right,
it was
exactly.
that separation.
You need to assimilate.
Exactly.
You need to assimilate.
Sure.
So what occurred was, from a very young age, I was having issues, and I reflect on it now, and it was an Ogun issue, right? So as I grew up, I was said, so around the age of 10 or whatever, and I'm going to start there to tell you how my godparents, how I met my godparents. Around the age of 10, more or less, I would go to this school that was called Truman Elementary. You could still go there, but it's a tax collector building now. The building still exists. But there were 3 ceiba trees, and that those in the yard, in the schoolyard. So 3 gigantic ceiba trees, which were irocos, right?
Yeah.
All right. So really, I lived less than a block away, and in between my house and the school was a bakery. And every morning, and then my mother was a hairstylist or a cosmetologist. Nice. Right? And she would do everybody's hair. She did
very Ochung of her.
Yeah, very Ochung, right? And she did Best Truman's hair, Best Truman's manicure, all that kind of stuff when President Truman would visit a lot of Key West. So I went through all that, and my mother would tell me, remember, you got to behave yourself. So I would walk to school. But I found out that in the roots of these iroko trees, there was change, right? So being a kid, what are you going to do?
Yeah, take the chains and go to the bakery. Right?
Exactly, being the kind of kid that I am.
Pastelito de guayaba y queso te costó caro.
Exactly, jelly rolls, everything, donuts. It was a nickel.
Word.
So I'd find like 5 or 10 pennies, right? So I get there early. Mom, I got to go to school early. And she probably thought it's because I wanted to study. But really, it's because I wanted to see if there was some money so I could go to the bakery. So I would go to the bakery and get it, and So one day, I think it was in 5th grade or something like that. And then this is what snowballed everything else, right? I was in 5th grade, and I saw in the trunks, if you've ever seen a ceiba, which is, of that size, you know that the trunks are these humongous things. They look like caves, right? Yeah. In Spanish, they're called etribones. Yeah. So I kind of like reached in, and I was trying to get something, and I slipped. And I fell, and one of the thorns poked me right here. And you could come over and feel if you'd like to. I have an indentation right here. Stuck me, and I lost consciousness.
Oh my God.
When I came back, I didn't have a shirt on, my pants were rolled up. And my dad luckily worked for the education department. They were like, "What happened to him? What happened to him?" And I was like, for me, it was nothing.
Yeah,
right. I slipped. I kept on saying I slipped. But later on, things started happening. So as I became a teenager, certain things were happening, and it was all dealing with ego.
Yeah.
So from there, my dad would send telegrams to Cuba at the time. And he would also write letters to his godmother or try to call on the phone. But in those days,
oh my God,
you couldn't call.
It's hard now, imagine that.
Hard now, exactly. So she wrote back and she says, "You need to go to Miami. Please go to this person's name." Gave us a phone number, and that's how I met my Ifa godfather.
Okay.
So on
his name?
Victor Perez Ogundata Tura was his name. Yeah. Right? There
we've always fraternized on that because my godfather was Ogundata Tura as well. Pedrito. Yeah.
So so we go find out, and then I never forget. Typical 70s, right? It was in a dark room, dark paneling on the walls.
What part of Miami do you live in?
He was at that time. He was living at 67, and 67 between 24 and 40. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like 20 or 30 something.
Nice.
So it was on a corner. It was across the street from Baptist Church. I go in. I met a lovely lady there, his name Oliva, who later became my Yubona, was his mother.
Wow.
And so I came in, the first thing, me tiró lecole, I got the consultation, and sure enough, he says, "I think you're a child of Ogun." And I was like, well, I don't know what that is.
Wow, from the first reading.
From the first reading, because I said, I told my dad, "I'm going to do Chango just like you do." Because I figured,
Of course, I didn't know. Right? That's Dad, yeah.
And Dad had Chango done. I had a great relationship with my dad.
Beautiful.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to do what you got. Whatever it is that you got, I'm going to get it done, right? No. So sure enough, he says, "I think you're a child of Ogun. You need to get Orula and your warriors and stuff." And I didn't know. I don't know what it was. I had no idea what that part was, right? So we go through that part, and then, of course, I come out of Yobe. It comes out in Osobo. It comes out Ulonire. No. I received it March the 7th, 1977.
Oh, wow.
Right? And then all of a sudden, right then, and everybody started running. It was in Osobo. Yeah. All the stuff that they had to do.
Yeah, the Ashinima, everybody gets so freaked out.
I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what is this? Yeah. And there was a big plante. There was a lot of people, but I was the last one because I was a kid.
Yeah,
I was a kid, right? Yeah. So I was the last one. So I was like, okay, all right. So from there, he's got to do Santo, right? And I was like, okay, well, yeah.
You're 13 at this point,
and
right?
I'm like 13, 14.
Wow.
Right? At that point, and then all of a sudden they go, well, have you decided who you want? And I wanted his mother because she was nice to me, because when everybody was starving, she actually kind of like under the table she gave me a steak sandwich. Yep. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, this is the woman to have to help me out. And I picked a nice lady that was there. Her name was Ana Cortada, or Mile Fung was her name. And Ana Cortada was Oliva's sister. So basically, I picked the mother, the daughter to be my madrina, and my godfather.
La familia. They were all family.
And they were all family. Oh, and then her husband was the Oriate. He's Oba Oriate, and his name was Jorge Contada.
Wow.
So, and that's how I did it. So I got it on the 7th of March, and by April the 30th, I had Ogun done.
Corriendo.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a month. Wow.
Yeah, and by that time I was in the first year of high school, and I was like, what's going on? And And of course, I didn't know how to break it to the people in high school.
No, especially at that time. It's not like now where, you see somebody in all white, you kind of, there's a lot of tolerance, there's a lot of open-mindedness.
Exactly.
But back then, they must have been like...
and of course, I think I said something stupid when they asked me, well, what did you do? And I said, they fused a bone in the back of my neck.
Oh my God, you're horrible.
Yeah, well, I had to be inventive at that time.
Yeah, I'm dying.
Because I was going to get bullied.
Yeah, for sure.
Nowadays, bullying is different. But
no, back
in
then,
those days, they just rat on you. they give you a hard time.
All day long.
So I spent the whole year in that, and then of course, then I started out, and of course, on the third day you have your ita, right? And I was like, well, what's going on, and so on and so forth. And since I didn't know who Ogun was, I really didn't.
Yeah, you're a child.
I'm a kid. I didn't know, but I knew who Yemaya was.
Sure.
So, of course, in Ita, they said, no, well, now we have to... I didn't say anything because you couldn't talk in those days.
No.
You couldn't
shake and separate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when we separa.
So the only thing I said, because, the only thing I remember saying was when they said, oh, we're going to talk about... we're going to select who your mother's going to be. And I said, no, you don't need to do that. And they looked at me like I was an alien. I said, no, because Yamaya's going to be my mother. And he goes, shut up, Yabo, you're not supposed to talk. And I'm like, I said, how could it not be? This is what I said. And it was kind of prophetic. I said, how can it not be? She started talking from Eligua, then she talked in Batala, then she talked in Ochu.
That's incredible. 13 even have the clarity, the understanding, the wherewithal to even be like, yeah, there's a thread here. That's wild.
And I said, she has to be it. And sure enough, it was her. And then, to the point where I was like that, I think that my guardian angel got a little jealous.
Yeah.
That you feel that, right? You don't know if they get jealous or not, because, right? Yeah, but I think that Ogun was a little jealous with her.
I mean, some people would say that's a really perfect combination. I mean, you kind of look at that relationship because, people like to talk about Chango no Chung, Badala and Yemaya. I mean, when you look at the various Odus of when Ogun and Yemaya actually got together and started creating people, it was a perfect combo.
Yeah,
it really was, especially after his divorce with Oya, what she had gone through, and what they represented to each other. And I'm bravo. They went to war together. They understood each other. It was really flawless for them.
There you go. And then of course, then became after I got initiated, which is kind of interesting. That's when you become your apprenticeship, right?
That's where we want to get to.
Okay.
At what point now? Because when we talk about being that you mentioned it, when we talk about Ejiobe, I say the key thing with all of these things is interpretation in your business, just like in mine. And when you look at a mei, interpretation is very key because there's so many different ways you can go with any one of those 16 signs. But when you look at a odu like Eyobe, I think a lot of brothers and sisters, the first thing they're like is like Ifa, right?
Right.
But when you actually study and you penetrate in these scriptures and this information, there's a very big thing that was born there, which is the Ita of Orisha.
Yes.
So, when somebody comes with a bombastic sign like that, or any of the meis or whatnot, I always tell people you have to really interpret and look at, first off, the person's desire. Because I'm really at a point in my practice where I don't want anybody doing what they don't want to do and saying, no, the sign says you have to do something. Right. Because within a sign, you have 100 different things that are talking.
That's true.
Right? And even in a sign like Eyobe, the king of Ifa, all these different things, it's ultimately saying that the person is a leader. Mm-hmm. We just need to find what field you're going to be leading in. So, I mean, when that came out, I would imagine, what was it? What was the thing?
Oh, okay.
Because you know how we are. Babalaos are toxic. Vamos a hacer Ifa. The brother Oriate is like, no, el caracol.
Well, all right. At that time, let's put it this way. I always wanted to become an Ifa priest, right? And this was because it was a tradition. It was my family. You understand? And there were certain things.
This is what we do.
I was like, okay, traditional. I'm gonna be thrown to change. Just like the rest of you guys, right?
What you see?
Yeah. So now, at that point, my godfather said, no, I think it's best if you do. You get initiated, or you get crowned, or you have your as Ogun. But Ogun at that time there was an interpretation that the children of Ogun, or the sons of Ogun wouldn't go to Ifa.
Yeah.
But the interesting part that I always had in the back of my brain or my mind was that in my Ita, the Orula, I'm Osobbo, but I'm Orulo Nide. And then years later, I had another Ita with Orula, and again, I'm Orulo Nide. And I tried to find out what it was, but then I found out, I was like, I had to separate, I had to separate Orula and Ifa, which is hard to say.
Yeah.
But Orula is the Orisha.
Of course.
Ifa is the system that Orula utilizes.
Yeah, they're different. Sometimes we synonymize the names, but ultimately the one's a system and one is a deity.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, but I always had Orulo Nide, which is interesting. So at that time they were going, because the way it happened, and I remember this distinctly, because I thought, they ask you, who do you think your guardian angel is? And you go, Chango.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, well, what's next? Then go, oh, well, we need to ask for Legua. When the Legua said no, right away, all the elders in the room was, it's a yobe, we should ask for Odua,
Yeah.
and all that's kind of...
Well, everybody's there. That's the problem with an Odu like that, yeah.
And then my godfather again reiterated, he said, no, we need to ask for Ogun because I believe that he's a child of Ogun. And at that point I go, I don't know Ogun, but all right, whatever you guys say, I'm going to do what you guys say. Yeah. At that point,
Yeah.
So, and it turned out I was Ogun, and that's how that happened.
No, Ogun ahí, he speaks quite heavily. It's interesting, the concept ultimately, because ultimately we've been able to disprove that the son of Ogun is incompatible with Ifa. There's plenty of brothers that are sons of Ogun that have done Ifa and done very well, etc. People like Kundo Sevilla, from what I understand, whatnot, because ultimately the reason Orumila initiated gentlemen like Amosun and Amorun is because they were blacksmiths. But to be able to get to them, he had to do Ifa to Ogun first. He was like, you want my guys? You gotta, tiene que contar conmigo, because I was the one who taught them, So there's some scripture and traditions and lineage over there. Ogun was the first Babalao, because without it, how do we confection the opele? Where do we get the chain from?
That's true.
Where do we get the Osun icon from?
Right.
If you look at a lot of the really key implements within Ifa, they're made out of iron.
Yeah.
So who did you end up, I'm sure, like, someone with as much tenure as you've had many teachers. Who was that first, resource or exposure to the Oriate position for you? Was it your...
my godmother's husband.
Yes, Oba Oriate.
Oba Oriate, yes. Because after I...
Son of Chango as well?
Yeah. I was surrounded by Son of Chango, right? Yeah. All right. So he, and then at that time in Miami, there was an Oriate called Vicky, and there was Jose Roque. Himawa.
Yes.
Himawa. Right.
Tinibu.
Right. Tinibu.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So then Willie Ramos came like around 1980, or something like that.
Yeah.
So they started coming because there was more movement between New York and Miami and New York.
Yeah.
But originally I was with Jorge Cortada, right? And there was a couple other ones that now, the names kind of like I'm 64.
How many years of Santo do you have, Cosme?
I have 49, and I'm going to be 50.
We're waiting for that 50. We're going to crack a bottle.
We're going to have to drink a bottle or something at 50. I never thought I'd get to this age.
Yeah, that's wild.
So the thing is, I go through that process. I did my year in 7 days, right? But during my yaboraje, like we lived in Key West, the Santos were in Miami, and every weekend I'd go to Miami, and then even though I wasn't allowed in the room, I made myself useful. Yeah. What do you have to do? Oh, we got to do palanganas. Okay, so I take the palanganas and I wash the palanganas, the bowls and all that kind of stuff. What else you need? Oh, well, we need to get everything ready for Egun. And I would say, okay, I got to tell me what you need, right?
The prep.
The prep is important. Because
preparation is where victory comes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't prep, there's nothing you can do, right? So I was like, all right, so let's get this going. And I would say, well, how do you do it, right? So I'd have to ask. So if you ask my godmother, she had a certain way of doing things, but I would always ask my yubona, because my yubona had more patience for me. She was a child of Oba Moro. Oh. So I was smooth sailing, and I would say, what do I need to do? How does this work? What do you want me to do here? And she would go, do this, do this, do this. So I started doing that, right? And the funny thing about it was that this doesn't happen much anymore. But after Ita, I was supposed to work spiritual work immediately after I was done on my 7th day. So I had to overcome my spiritual work and use spiritual work. So that helped me to ground me and calm me down.
Stabilize things.
Things, exactly.
Yob is a very spiritual sign.
So
el cielo y la tierra.
Exactly. So then I worked with my yubona and I learned and I made myself useful. And then after my year and 7 days, I kind of tagged along with the Oriate. So he said, listen, I need you to go, let's go to do an olokun. All right, so I would go. And this was on the weekends, right? So I would drive up from Key West, go there, and I did for maybe 3 or 4 years. Yeah. That was my consistent process, right? Every weekend.
Beautiful.
I wasn't going out, I wasn't.
It's wild you say that, because
I wasn't skirt chasing or anything
No.
that.
I mean, as a young man, but, it's... You look at some people, right? I remember my godfather told me, he said, el que no estudia ahora se queda atrás después.
Yes.
If you don't study now, you're going to feel it later. You're going to fall behind. And you see gentlemen that are meant for certain positions. And it's not really a sacrifice, because it's something you enjoy, but it doesn't resemble what other people your age are doing at that time. Like the first 6 years of my Ifa career were basically, I was at my godfather's house every month. We had a plante.
Yeah.
And that's what we were doing, you know. And he would literally, he'd be like, wait, I need this done, the same thing. And then when we were done, be like, mija, I'll see you tomorrow. Y todo estaba hecho un desastre.
Yeah.
Pero créeme, those leguas and everything were spotless the next day.
Because you had to organize it.
And you had to get it ready.
So that's where you know that they have confidence
Claro.
in your abilities,
Yeah.
right? So you have to gain or earn that confidence.
Yeah.
Now, of course, in my case, I was constantly going out, but it gave me the perspective of watching different people work.
Which is the best.
And knowing different things,
Yeah.
right? So I always thought, I said, well, why is it this? Shouldn't this be, okay, Iobe, right? Let's get back to Iobe. All right, everything should be standardized. Okay, this is like this is like this.
Yeah,
It should
la
be
organización.
or organized. All right. So I would go, so I'd say, well, that's different. And then I'd say, and then I'd find out, we're from Wado, we're from Matanzas, we do this differently. This is how we do it. And do okay. And our lineage is like this. And then another place something was different. And I would go, well, what is it? What? Oh, that's because this happened. So now, as an adult, and I've been doing it for a while now, I actually go and I go, people ask me, well, why is this like this? I say, wait, what is your lineage? That's very
You got 10 minutes to really go over this? It's not a short answer anymore.
It's not a short answer anymore. But I always ask what your lineage is.
Of course.
Because the lineage dictates what you do.
Absolutely.
All right. And if you don't know your lineage, that's where you should start first.
Yeah.
What is your lineage? What does your lineage do? Were there modifications? And same thing with Aña, right? You got Arailu, which is the city, right? And Arauco, which is the campo, Matanza. So you got two different ways of presenting the Yahoo or the person to Aña, right?
Absolutely.
So you got the Arailu version, which is Havana, and originally it was supposed to be all in white with shoes on, right? And then you have Matanzas, which is Maribo
Very rustic.
So it's different, right? And with the outfits and the crowns and so on and so forth. So that's how I learned, right?
Lineage is everything. Lineage is very important. Like when you look at the Odu Owani Alakentu, it says all traditions trace themselves back to Ifa, pero lineage is mayor to a certain degree. Like it's known as your orisun. It's where you originate from, right? And I think now we're starting to have that acceptance in Cuba because in Africa that's understood. Where in Abeokuta they might do it like this, or in Oshobo they do it like this. Cuba had that same disbursement where madanzas, the santo even looked like in Oriente and stuff like that. And so it was completely like whoa,
exactly.
So it was all very different. So I think that's a key thing now. And how important do you think that is to maintain as we're moving forward? Somebody who's been in this for decades and understanding the discrepancy and debate that can come from it unproductively.
You know what? You know how they say they say that the results, the ingredients don't affect the results.
Yeah, they don't dictate them.
They don't dictate them, right? So the lineage, you're still crowned, you're still a brother or a sister, right? You're still an Orisha, Yellow Orisha, Baba Orisha. You're still crowned, and we should respect each other's differences.
Of course.
Yeah, like for instance, Cuba is very Oyo-centric.
Absolutely.
Mostly Oyo. And who's the powerhouse in Oyo?
Shango.
Exactly.
We're all sons and daughters of Shango somehow.
Exactly. But in Africa, who's the powerhouse? It's my guardian angel.
Yeah, Ogun is the guy.
Ogun is the guy, right?
Ogun is the guy.
All right, so that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference because the people that arrived at Cuba were Oyo-centric.
And you see the personality. You see the energy, how it differs.
Yes.
Even from a practical standpoint, how our Ifa, our Odisha is same but different compared to even commonplace what happens in Africa.
And it's the same thing. Ifa in Cuba went through the same situation that Orisha worship went through. In Ifa, in different areas in I guess Yoruba land, if you want to put it for lack of a better term. Nigeria, right? Is different in different, it has different ethnicities, right?
Yeah.
So you go different, right? And the ceremonies are different. But in Cuba, what they did was they codified it for the work in the new world.
Yeah, so everybody kind of, when you get to a ceremony, we're able to actually get something done.
Exactly.
Because in the beginning, if you have 10 different lineages and they're like, no this, no this, no this, and the regla de ocho, when you look at that term,
it's the same thing.
Donde lo arreglaron.
Right, exactly.
Let's all sit down and what do we all feel comfortable with? Como el Ifa, you had Bojonos from Benin. You had,
Yes.
you know, brothers from Oyo, Ifa priests from Ife.
Dahomey or Benin.
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
And they all kind of came to a conclusion so that when we got together, we could actually work together. Because
Right.
before to work in Ifa in another place, you actually have to go through a process with them. Like, let's get you up to speed. It's like a certification, like at work. You need to pass this module to be able to roll with us,
Yeah.
you know? So with now the Oriate position,
Okay.
for somebody that's coming in completely blind,
Right.
new to the religion, they're hearing all these different words and whatnot, how would you explain your position to somebody that's completely new? What is an Oba Oriate to a
Okay.
complete novice?
All right. I had I spoke with an Ifa priest called Adele Kang
Nice.
a while back.
Nice.
And he asked me a similar question. What do you know, he was like, what is this? What is this? Why are you called an Oba?
Yeah.
Why, Oba is a king, you're no
Yeah.
king, you know. And
Yeah.
I said, you're right, I'm the
Yeah.
king. But I'm the king of the room.
Yes, sir.
And then what is it, right? So they're like wondering, well, what is it I do? Well, in essence, I believe that we are the director, like a director of the actual ceremony.
Absolutely.
So
The master.
Master of the ceremony, right? Master of ceremonies. So when we get 10 or 12 people in a room, and we're there for one purpose, right? To crown purpose. There might be people with different levels of capability, right? That some people know a lot, some people know less, some people know different things, some people have done it a different way. And it could be we're working all as you know, like a brotherhood.
Everybody
right?
has a virtue.
Everybody has a virtue or a grace, I like to call it. Some people are good at this, some people are good at that. All right, there has to be one person in the room that's already spoken with the godmother or the godfather and the Yubona, and basically, okay, what is your lineage? This is how we're going to do it. It's going to work. So there has to be somebody to direct everybody.
Yeah, coordinate.
Coordinate, right? So you have to have the mindset that you're going to go in there and you're going to have 10 people. Some of them have worked together before. Maybe you met some people in other places, but not everybody's going to know each other.
No.
You have to make sure that the mission is accomplished. So basically, you're guiding those 10 people or 12 people through the process of getting it.
You're like Odysseus.
And yeah, this is
You really are.
So you're trying to get them through the process
Yeah.
of getting this one person, because in reality, my responsibility is for the person that's getting initiated.
Yahweh. That's who we're here to save.
That's
Like
who we're
Ogun
here to
says, Yahweh inocente.
That's right. So in reality, you think about it, I'm responsible
Oh, yes.
for that person till where we're done with Ita, and then I hand them over to the godparent and the Yubona, right? I hand them over and I say, but in reality, the entire process, from the day of getting crowned to the second day to the third day, I'm responsible for making sure that Orisha is crowned correctly on that person's head.
Yes.
So you have to be aware. You have to know the technique. So that's where I started learning. And how did I learn the technique? Was by going to different places, learning different personalities. Because Ifa worship and Orisha worship has always had personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've always had.
God, yeah.
We've always
Some
had
we can't even talk about on screen.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fine, yes.
Yeah.
But we've always had personalities.
No.
But you had to know the technique.
Yes.
And also, you needed to be somebody that could think quickly on your feet, because if something was missing, you had to make sure how can you progress to the next step if you're missing an item. And then what item substitutes another item, right?
Yeah.
It's just like when we do a sign that we do with a yeah, and that's the one that puts the seal, right?
It's like when the religion came over. If we didn't think on our feet, we would have died.
Right.
If we didn't go from the Obicola to the coconut, we would have been
if we didn't
out of
go
luck.
from Obicola to Agbon, right?
We would have been done. So
exactly, we
it's
would
our
have been done.
essence of survival.
And you know what? You got to hand it to those ancestors.
They were geniuses.
Yep, you got
They
to
were
hand it to
geniuses.
the
To go from a gungun to a tile, there had to be, like you said, there had to be real understanding. To be able to create something, you have to profoundly understand the concept to be able to recreate it with different ingredients.
And just to think that they only consecrated one at a time.
Yeah.
Right. To think. So you went through the process for only one Orisha.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas we actually codified it again.
Yeah.
And so we wouldn't lose any of the stuff. So that's one of my particular things is I don't want to lose the essence.
No, there's
that
no
we
reason
had,
to. It's beautiful.
that we had. So because I think that it's a vibrant
Nowadays, I see a lot of people say no, but he says this is good, it's great,
Yeah, the family,
and it works, and
yeah.
if that's your pathway, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'd like to conserve our version because I think that our version worked well for the new world, and we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for the version.
And it's actually the most practiced one on earth. When you actually look at the Afro-diasporic Ifa traditions, when you quantify all of them,
Yes.
I mean, the number's incomparable.
There you
Between Santeria, when you look at Candomblé and everything,
Right.
not to take anything away,
No,
but
no.
you look at just the disbursement and the propagation of it all, Olodumare has a plan.
Yes.
So wherever or however it landed, but you talk about volume, it's the one that's been most seen in the history of Ifa practice, period.
Yeah.
So a position like yours, nothing short. And I've had the pleasure of collaborating with you. You've been so kind to support us through so many Orisha processes. And apart from being a spiritual professional, you are a professional in the
Yes.
corporate world. And just to see how those skills can translate regardless of whatever space you're in, it really is an inspiration to all those involved, where you look at the Ifa practitioner. For the longest time, we were just cigars, gold chains, and a
Yes.
big koyal, right?
Yes.
As we're getting now further into this century, we're seeing like the masks taken off, where, hey, by day I'm a coordinator, I'm a VP, or,
Right.
I'm an entrepreneur, whatever.
Right.
And then at night, we are what we are. But it was like that before. Like, you hear about all these old babalaos. No, one was a gastroenterologist.
Yes.
One was a lawyer.
Yes.
One was this. He had a barber shop. Like, they had profession, and they all kind of translated back into Ifa. But it is really beautiful, elders such as yourself taking the time to be able to expose that now, where we don't have to be one faceted. We're talking about a life that ideally will last 8 to 10 decades. Every 10 years is a different chapter, and we're learning new things and doing new things to be able to meet somebody well-rounded and fulfilled at this point, where, hey, I was an Oriate, I was this position, I did this and this. For somebody coming in, it's really motivating, because like, I don't have to be just the chicken guy.
Right, exactly.
And you look at somebody with your acumen as well. What were your study habits like when you look at somebody? Because I really have an issue with, like, for example, everybody looks at Ifa study, right? Odu and all these other things.
right.
Very intense. There's no question about it. But what I don't want it to ever seem like is that the position of Oriate study is any less. And
Right.
I think going in, I think we're all priests, right? But within this sub-pocket of Orisha, the Oriate kind of stands alone within the study.
Yes.
So when you look at y'all's study capacity along with ours, it's parallel. Because when you're looking at all the ceremonies and Odus that go into that, just like within Ifa and whatnot, it's basically two different departments.
Yes.
So what were your study habits like? How grueling is it? And for the person that is like, I want to be an Oriate, what can you help them understand before they go down this path of what to expect from a study standpoint?
Okay, well, from a study standpoint, you have to learn Odun, Dilogun Odun.
Yes.
Right? You have to learn, and people, there's a lot of talk today about, that I see people say, oh, you're talking Dilogun, but you're really talking Ifa. And I look at it this way. I think it's all complementary, right? I think that Dilogun has their conversations.
Of course.
And Ifa has their conversations. And sometimes the conversations cross over one and forth. So that's the first thing, right? You have to learn how to manipulate the oracles. You have to learn how to manipulate Obi.
Yeah.
And you have to learn how to manipulate Dilogun. And you also have to learn the prayers that go along with Dilogun, right?
Yes.
Okana has his prayer, Eyoko has Eyoko, or Yekun, whatever you want to call it, whatever the name is, Ogunda has the prayer, and so on and so forth. You need to learn the prayers that are involved with the Dilogun. All right. So, and aside from that, you need to learn the songs and the methodology, right? And the Irawos, which are the secret, everybody knows what the Irawo is. And for our audience, it's what we do inside the room. So you need to learn the different Irawos and the different variants of the Irawos for different Orishas. Because that happens as well.
Oh, yeah. Lineage.
And then you also have to learn how to sing the correct songs for the correct moment.
Yes.
Right. Now,
Because not everything is rumba. Not everything is merengue.
exactly.
Not there's a time and a moment for each type of song.
Yeah, like for instance,
I rezo y I canto.
Yes, exactly. So and it's very important, and I think this is something that's for the younger crowd, that I think it's very important that they learn how to do the rezos. Because like for instance, if you go Aluya Oni Chango, when you go like that, and you're praying Chango's prayer, it's the prayer, and at the at the moment of coronation,
When it's applicable.
it's applicable.
Yeah.
And that, because you're actually praying.
What your
Exactly.
Your
So
process.
that brings the whole spiritual energy.
You're calling it.
I'm calling it.
You're not distracting it by saying something completely different that sounds melodic. You're actually invoking.
Invoking.
Yeah.
So, and in the younger crowd, sometimes, I could go, oh, and that is not appropriate for a crowning at that moment. It might be appropriate maybe like 30 or 40 minutes down the road, but not at that moment.
No.
So those are the things that you have to be aware of. And then also you have to study. Now, a good funny thing is, I'm a musician, right?
Yeah.
I was a trumpet player.
Nice.
I graduated with a music degree from UF.
I didn't know that, Cos.
Yeah, yep. I got a bachelor's of music degree from UF, and then I got a master's degree from Phoenix. So
that's wild.
I was a musician, but of course, my singing capabilities. It's not like today, where, like for instance, I want to learn how to sing for Anyan.
Yeah.
I could go to Miami, and there's a whole bunch of instructors.
Yeah.
That'll give you Anyan classes, even online. We'll teach how to sing for Anyan.
It's different times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I learned this. I had to learn the songs by rote.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, it's different. This one sings it like that. Where's the
The time.
the timing, right?
Yeah, no. There's a big difference between cantante de ceremonia and cantante de tambor.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
'cause the ceremonial, we put our own time.
Exactly.
Yeah, su gusto.
Yeah. I call it. Yeah, at your own field.
Efectivamente.
So after years of trying, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I could never get it. And there was a mentor that I had gone to his house, and his name's Felix Oviedo Obacoso, right?
Oh.
Obacoso. And Felito me decía, and we call him Felito,
Yeah.
right? Felito, and I would go and I said, Felito, could you help me out with this?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he says, oh yeah, come on over. And I'd go and I was like, what the heck am I doing here? Every week with my Walkman, and I'd record, and then he'd record, and I'd go home and try to listen. It's not like today that you can listen on the phone.
Go on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Go on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And even everything's written on YouTube. And I'd go and I'd listen to it in my room, and I'd try to write it down phonetically, because now, see, that was another issue. You'd have to write it down phonetically. So I remember one particular moment that it was my aha moment, when he says, aren't you a musician? I said, yeah, but
Esto es un poquito diferente.
Where's it written down? He says, this is 6/8. And I went, the meter for this is 6/8? He goes, yes. So he said, so I went, Ibarago mo yuba.
It's over with.
Ibarago mo yuba. So that's how I got it. And so at that moment, and then I remember he had gigantic hands, because from years of playing drums, right? He'd sit here and he'd go, Ibarago mo yuba, and he would do that, and that's how I learned. Finally, it clicked for me.
He spoke your language.
He spoke my language.
Time.
He gave me time, order and space. This
Beautiful.
is nothing that, that I have an ancestor in the room.
Yeah.
That it's just, and that's where I learned it.
When you go through trial by fire like that, you're in a very interesting position, Cosme. And I say that because you're a 60s baby, right?
Right, yeah.
And now, all this time later, learning, writing things down phonetically, Walkman every weekend in Miami, to now the age of information.
Right.
And the age of information has affected everything, including the religion.
Exactly.
We are more visible now than ever before. More information is available now than ever before. You being somebody that's been able to experience both, how has social media positively and, in your opinion, possibly negatively affected Ifa and Orisha?
Positively, I think that it's been beneficial for a lot of people that are always, because you always have that one person that really wants to know, right? That wants to know what to do, how to work. What is this? What is this? And I think that that's a positive aspect. But if you do not know where to look or what you're looking for,
You can find the wrong thing.
you find the wrong thing, and then it becomes a negative aspect, because then you learn something that isn't correct. So then when you're faced with the truth later on, which I'm not going to say that it hasn't happened to me, because I learned something that it was incorrect.
Yeah, we've had to unlearn
And then
possibly more than we learned.
Then you go, exactly.
Yeah.
Now you have to unlearn everything. It's more waste of time.
It's tedious.
It's tedious, and then you have to go. So I would say that anybody that's on social media and they're wanting to learn, they should do this with patience and with the ability to this discernment. Say, okay, this is what I'm looking for, or at least have the backing of an elder that says, okay, if you're gonna look for this, okay, you found it. Let's review this together. Let's sit down and talk and say, okay, what are you trying to look? I have a godchild right now. He did Santo as an adult. All right. He's having a hard time. I tried to break it down for him and say, listen, and he's taking classes too, which they're readily available. The Willie Ramos, elecdad.org.
No, the resources are out there.
The resources are out there. And even online and so on and so forth. He's taking classes, but it's still not. It's not clicking with him.
I think he found Orisha, and mind you, my father's a surgeon. He's a physician, right?
There you go.
And you look at a job like that, right? You think there could be nothing more difficult than learning this. And I don't want people to misinterpret me, but I'm going to make a point here. When you're going to do a surgery, whether it's in here, Russia, Tibet, wherever,
right,
it's the same surgery.
Yes.
Other than something might happen and the person has to react, but even then, you have a certain set of resources that you can react as. But I think that there may be nothing more frustrating or difficult to learn than Ifa Orisha. And my reason being is because you can go to a Santo, and someone such as yourself, you've seen the Santo pretty much every way. Right. You've seen how many different ways to skin a cat. But if you're somebody like at the stage of your godson or whatnot that goes to a random Santo and you're like, oh,
yeah,
this isn't what, and Ogun actually speaks of it, where he traveled the 7 lands of Ifa, and they did the Ifa every way differently. And when he went back to Olodumare and Orula, he got angry at them. He said, oye, me enseñaste esta forma, but everywhere I go, it's something different. I can't learn. And they were like, well, learn everything. And he was like, oh, well, you should have told me. He's like, but then you wouldn't have learned.
Right.
If you wouldn't have had that moment of like, oh my God, they do it differently, but it's still right. So those are signs of a fabulous elder. You taking the time to actually be like, hey, this is our book, but this other book, you might be able to digest it right now, and it'll help you understand this book, and back and forth. So I've always recognized patience as being the sign of a great elder.
Yes.
What should people be weary of with certain behaviors? Like, what are some red flags? Like, hey, if you see things like this, you want to run.
Yeah. Fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you come tomorrow, and right away. You got to get it done next week.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good thing, because you should have the. Granted, look, there's people that I've initiated that I've known for over 15 years, and they've gotten to know me.
Yeah.
And they know
It's a relationship.
It's a relationship, and not to mention, it's usually a relationship for life.
Yeah.
Really. And then,
tu cuchara. Tu soba y tu cuchara.
Exactly.
Yeah, it should
There's
be.
problems with, and then you have issues at work, you're going to call me.
Yeah.
You have issues with your relationships, you're going to call me.
My godfather used to say that we don't have a psychology degree, but we listen to everybody.
Exactly.
We don't have a law degree, but we can,
Right.
it's...
And then the thing is, it's not just listening, but it's coming up or having the ability or having what they like to call fudache of resolving that issue, or allowing them to come to the conclusion that's going to be right for them, right? So those are things that you have to do, and you develop that. So if you think that versus, oh, you got to get this done in 2 weeks, or if not, you're going to pass away or whatever.
Yeah, fear.
Yeah, fear. All that fear, and then all that stuff that says, well, Ochun's going to get rid of you, and I'm like, I don't believe in that.
She brought us here. Why is she offing us?
Yeah, exactly. So those are things. Those are like my little pardon, my warning signs that I'm thinking. Okay, what is it? Right? What I'm thinking about. What should we look out? Well, those are little red flags that come up. Actually, no, big red flags. Because if it's like you got to get it done right now.
Yeah, no. I mean, you wouldn't do a surgery like that.
No.
Like a doctor's like, yeah, we got to cut this off. Well, hold on, let's pause. Second opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you explain it to me? And I think that's where patience is very important to have when you're starting off as well. Because everybody's had negative situations.
Yes.
Especially, our tradition, culturally, we're a little different. So, you have all types of personalities, right? So I've had people come to me and be like, hey, I have Mano Orula. I'm like, okay, awesome, right? Well, I wanted to receive it with you. I'm like, okay, what happened? Oh, time. I said, well, okay, I understand, but you received it, right? Yeah, but, certain things happen. I said, hey, your hand of Ifa is your hand of Ifa. let's pick up from here.
Right.
But it's like if you're coming in and you could recognize somebody as a resource or somebody you really want to move forward with, you want to wait for that person to a certain degree.
Yes.
It's like when you're going to get married, like this woman's amazing, right? We're trying to find the perfect wedding date. I'm going to wait as long as I have to be with this woman.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing from a platonic spiritual standpoint with an elder. If you find somebody like that, but you have people that come in that, I don't want to say desperation, but they have this this desire, right? They want to be in, but you want to get in the right way. You don't want to rush a decision, and we've seen countless people who have been like, oh yeah, I did this and this and this.
And then what happens?
And then what happens, and then we're picking up from there. We don't want to focus on the past, but it's very important. And, to be able to move forward in a productive way so that, we don't have to backtrack in any way, shape, or form. When you look at a situation such as that, and you being in the position, when you talk about the word Oba, the reason it got applied to gentlemen who are directing the room is because at that moment, the king doesn't say a lie. What he's saying has to be done, right? There's a lot of power, a lot of influence that comes with that.
Right.
How important is that personal growth and humility to be able to occupy that position? Because, power tends to ruin men.
Yes.
And divide countries.
Yes.
So, how important has that been for you to always maintain that exquisite character that you have? And, how have you seen that people who don't know how to handle it, what could be the results?
All right. Let's hark back to my mentors, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Gentlemen.
Yes. To my mentors, all of them, right? For all their faults and for all their good and for all their graces, right? One thing or the other, we learned how they learned, which was, how did they teach you? It was the military style. Apalo, right? Apalo. And that, for those of you who are listening, it's
the stick.
The stick, or
like Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt, carry a big stick.
Policy.
It's do as I say and don't change anything. Do exactly what I'm telling you to do. And of course, there was a raising of voices, and if you don't know what you're doing,
you might get something thrown at you. It's a different time.
You might get something thrown at you if you were doing something incorrectly. And you have to be, it's a child of the times, right? That's what I like to call it. It's a child of the times. So I always thought, okay, how am I going to learn this with all these, because, I was learning, and I'm sure I shed tears.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to get the things done right, correctly. And if my mentor's telling me, oh, I was getting dressed down in military terms.
So yeah.
Right.
You're gonna know who you are. They're gonna let you know who you are.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you're never gonna want to screw up again, right? So that learning style is throughout the years has been modified. You can't do that nowadays.
It's a little different.
It's a little.
It's
different.
like TV.
It's like
there's certain things we can't say now. Yeah.
There's with us it was 3 channels. Right, and you were the remote. Now it's like everything. It's internet, whatever. What do you want?
You have options.
So for a young person that's learning in the humility of the Oriate, I try to be I'm gonna tell you the correct way. I'm not gonna lead you down. And if you ask me questions and you have options because it's different and you have a different lineage, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna help you, but I have to be humble to do that.
Yeah.
And I try to show you in a humble, low key, so you can remember what you're doing, so you don't feel nervous and you feel part of the group while we're working together.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, if I tell you once, okay, and this is where, and if I tell you, and it happens again, and I tell you a second time, by the third time, I revert back to form.
Yeah.
Yeah, I revert back to, because maybe then my mind is going, and I'm thinking, well, maybe they're not learning this way. Maybe they need to learn like
different method.
Yeah,
a little different. There's different methods. There's different implementations. Yeah, and it's not abuse. It's knowing how to. You have to, when you're dealing with personality types. When you're in that position, that's really what you're doing with, whether it's corporate America or the Bodu. You have to. Everybody ticks a little bit differently. Everybody, it's a different learning style for everybody. It's like you're a teacher. This student learns like this. This student learns like this, and anybody can learn in any different way at any given moment. Like sometimes you have people that are very like soft, and it's like they understand with the eloquence and stuff like that, but the day they came in that day, it might be, hey, it's martial law at this point.
At that point, exactly.
So I will tell you this, I feel like there has to be a balance of both. I do believe that because, like, it even goes back to parenting, right? The way I parent my children, the way, parenting is viewed now, there's a lot of patience, there's a lot of understanding, there's a lot of explanations and things like that. But when it comes to survival and when it comes to productivity, because ultimately, every time we go in that room, we're going to war.
Right.
There's going to be bloodshed. There's going to be sweat.
Yes.
There might be some excrement,
That's
all
true.
these different things. We've opened up a Pandora's box that we're trying to close as productively and as quickly as possible as far as results. We're not rushing it, but at the same time, we don't want to, dilly-dally.
Right.
We want to get to the point. So I think it's a mixture of both, and I think that is tradition to a certain degree because it wasn't just Cuba. I think some people have this misconception that, the Cuban Ifa is very harsh and things like that. I mean, the brothers over there, you get hit. You mess up in the temple and stuff like that. There's punishment. There's repercussions for it. It's not as overt, but it does happen. So I mean, you maintaining that character. How important do you think that is for the overall productivity of a ceremony? Because if you're just popping off of the fly and we're yelling, because we've interacted with brothers like that, they'll get the job done, pero everybody's like
tensions, right?
So your behavior, how have you noticed that has gotten the best results for you?
For me, I said my behavior, since I'm a collaborator, right, and I feel that I'm part of the collaboration, I kind of try to bring everybody in.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to focus on one thing, on actually getting it done. So I've gotten to the point now where right before we start, I give them a little speech. And I feel
that was the funniest thing. I remember the first time we ever worked together, right? And me and Eric are there. We've already talked and stuff like that. Uh-huh. And we're sitting there, and I remember you came in, and it was like a mixer. It was like orientation.
Right.
Hello, my name is Cosme.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the Oba of the ceremony. I'm going to be the Oriate. I'm here to help. If you have any questions, please let me know. We're going to be getting started. I said, that's like when we used to start work,
Well,
like 15 minutes, like the 15
Unfortunately, it's like the morning meeting.
But it works. It works, Pana.
Because I have to get people on board.
Yeah.
Because what happens is everybody.
You also got to break the wall, especially if you're working with people the first time.
With their own preconceived conceptions or whatever they heard, and then they're going to think they're going to say. And then the important part is they're probably going, well, let's see what this okay, here comes this guy. Who is this?
¿Cómo viene?
How's it going to come? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? So I figured that I come in and I go, hey, how are you? Nice. This is my name. This is how many years I got. I got initiated like this. Let's work together. Or listen, we're going to have to work efficiently today because we need to get ready. This person needs it quickly.
Claro.
Because there's certain, you never know, right?
Yeah.
There's certain things that need to get done. So I give that speech and I go, how are you? And I now that you said it, it does sound like a morning meeting from corporate world. But you know what? It works. It works.
We're living in a capitalist time.
And I said, we're going to help each other out.
Yeah.
We're going to depend on each other. We're going to get going. And hopefully that'll take us all the way to the end.
Open door policy. And, the way, when you look at the Latin, Afro-diasporic upbringing and things like that, where it was very much apalo. Yeah. And then you have now people coming from all walks of life who have different upbringings and things like that, who want to facilitate and be a part of the team and process, but they don't respond well to that because they've never interacted with that.
No.
So it's an assimilation process on both halves because you want people to understand tradition, but at the same time you want them to feel welcome and comfortable.
Right.
Because it's scary,
Right.
It can be really scary. I mean, the old way of doing things. You've seen a lot of things in decades of directing and doing santos and all these different things. I think your behavior leads to the best outcomes, especially you got it down to a science at this point. What's something miraculous that you've noticed that's been a result of the santo, whether it be a health standpoint? You see
for
a lot,
me
like that for you possibly, or you seeing the outcome for somebody, like a case where you were like, wow, this person survived.
Well,
oh my God,
there was one particular. Well, there's been multiple ones, right? There's been multiple ones, but the one particular that stands out in my mind was from the late 70s, early 80s. There was a lady named Marita, and she couldn't walk. She was walking with crutches.
No.
And she'd been to the doctor. They couldn't determine what it was, and they couldn't determine what the problem was, why her legs weren't functioning. So she got initiated with Ireteyero's wife, which is Elena Figueira, and they happened to, she did Obatala. So in the middle day, right, the second day of the ceremony,
they had an agbe going on, which is a Weedle, right?
Nice.
They played a Weedle. Do you know that Obatala possessed her and she started walking? And after
wild,
that,
dog.
Obatala threw the crutches down and she started walking and she kept on walking right on up to when she passed away.
It's things that, it's like Ogun says, la ciencia falla. Like when science fails, religion picks everything up. And it's, mind you, my dad's a doctor. So like I've always been very like allopathically based, like where
Right.
if you're in a consult and there's really no spiritual explanation for what's going on, please go to the doctor.
Yes, exactly.
Please go to the physician. We're not here to replace each other. But the thing about Cuba is, and even Nigeria with the holistic medicine, the doctors aren't adverse to saying, hey, you should go visit Babalao or
somebody, yes,
visit
exactly.
somebody, because the radio X and the MRI is not showing me anything. So you hear things like that and you begin to realize there's a whole other aspect of health and things that we, from a Western minded standpoint, have understimulated. Where, there's always that scrutiny of, is this real? Does this work? All these other things.
Right.
But I think the best way to come to that conclusion is by walking the path. I mean, these are things that unless you see them, unless you experience them, you'd never believe it.
No. I had another like, I guess, case study, if you want to call it that, right?
Yeah.
Another case study where this veteran, female veteran, comes to visit me as she's a batala done, and the consultation came out Obeche, right?
Nice.
So right away we think about what normally Obeche talks about, right?
Yeah.
And we did what was prescribed, and about a month later, she says, I want to get consulted again. And Obeche comes up again.
Stop it.
That's twice now, right?
Yes.
So I had Obeche.
Of millions of possibilities.
Exactly. So, see, even you, right?
Claro,
You're
un mes
going,
después,
how's that
like,
going to happen?
that's wild.
How's it going to come up again?
Yeah.
So right then, I was like, wait a minute. I said, how are you feeling? She says, well, I said, wait. I said, you need to go to the hospital right now. Because I remembered that somewhere in the liturgy, it talked about the parrot
El loro.
and the meat was
Absolutely,
cancerous.
yes, absolutely.
I said, you need to go to Veterans right now.
It's also the audio of the otorrinolaryngologo, the otolaryngologist, the nose, ear, throat doctor, It speaks of medicine.
Exactly.
So no doing medicine.
So I remembered, it was like a flash.
It's
'Cause
Ogun.
I didn't even think about it,
sure.
right? So I was like, you need to go to Veterans, like today.
Ahora.
And she goes, really? I said, yes, you need to go today. Have them check your intestines, whatever.
A full panel.
Well,
Yeah,
full
everything.
panel. Well, they found out that she had a tumor that was growing in her stomach.
Stop it.
And it was starting to attach itself to the spine.
Oh, no.
They caught it at the right time.
Thank God.
And she's alive today, thankfully, cancer-free, because of Orisha. And I'm thinking, so those are two, and there's
Just
been,
two. No,
just
there's many.
There's many.
The Rolodex
But those
is thick,
two,
yeah.
those two, are in my mind. One was when I was young,
Yeah.
and then the other is an adult now.
Yeah.
And let's suppose we're all human, then we go, oh well, Orisha worship and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's when you go, wow,
It's real.
you have something in your hands that you could use that could predict what's happening
And identify.
and identify.
Something that even modern technology can't.
Exactly.
Like when you look and you hear about like the Dogon tribe in Africa, how they knew that star was there before the telescope that was invented many years later, or, constant things and concepts that within our mythology haven't been explained up until right now. They've been on Earth for 5,000 years, all these different concepts. And I think, when we talk about the loss of a professional, right? Like you look at in recent times, especially, people like Chacho Chumfunke, God bless the dead, people like Pedrito Sahuero, Lomi Lomi, really, really proficient guys, some of the gentlemen that you've met and that passed on as well. The scariest thing, I think, is the loss of a professional, because it takes so much time to construct that kind of preparation. And I look at somebody like yourself that decades upon decades of experiences, study, practicality and whatnot, what responsibility do you feel now having all this information within you, knowing what you know now, and how important is it to maintain it in a respectful, private way like our ancestors wanted it to be? Because now we see a lot of things that possibly we shouldn't. So you having all the knowledge you have and preparation you have, how responsible do you feel to maintain it in a way where only proper eyes and ears hear and see it?
I feel, and this, I really feel it's like heartfelt, right?
Yeah.
I feel that the information that I've gathered over the years, even though that somebody probably starting out today could probably get it quicker than I did, I feel that I should expose it or expose the correct people to the information I have.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because I feel deep down that if we don't keep these traditions alive, because already I could see that in a lot of places things are watered down, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, and in the past, Orisha was like, we say something in Spanish and we say, Chango used to resolve me, or Ogun would resolve for me, or Orisha would resolve for me with a glass of water and brown sugar.
Porque era secreto todavía. It was still secret.
It was secret.
It was still
and
potent.
It was, and then you were humble.
Yeah.
And you were humble in front of the Orisha.
And you had the faith, and you were invested.
And I was invested in the faith.
Uh-huh.
So with a water, a candle, and a glass, and some sugar, and just putting it to the Orisha, I would resolve. And now I see him. I see
You
people.
give 3 goats.
You give 3 goats, and you're still not resolving. And I think that because a lot of things are watered down, a lot of things is time constraints. I felt like there was more time. Things should slow down.
Yeah, it's a reflection of culture at that point. I mean, think about it. You I kind of look at now, back in the day, like maybe the era of your father, right?
Right.
There was a man working. The home was still able to be facilitated. One single income, maintained a house and
Right.
prosperity. That's not the case now.
No.
And everything's very streamlined, and it's finding that balance now to where, we can't cut so much fat that we start, going into the muscle, of what we do.
Right. And then when you're in a ceremony and they ask you a question, like for instance, recently they asked me, Oba, what is this thing I've heard about the hiendo tripa? In English, basically you take the stomach.
Yeah, the
and
braids.
And you braid.
Yeah, you were
braid
giving the
stomach.
class on in the last Santo. I remember I was watching you. Yeah.
You remember? And then right,
Yeah.
I did it over there.
Yeah.
And they go, well, we've never seen it. And I'm like, well, that's easy.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
Yeah.
And so I went.
It's a lost art.
Yeah, and then I said, here, let me show you. And they're looking at me like, at first they were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But you know what? Even that, something so simple as that, I think adds to the actual initiation process.
Of course.
And it adds to everything else. And it's certain things that those were the things that our ancestors did that I feel that are watered down now that we should come back to. Because I feel deep down that Orisha, that's what we're lacking nowadays. So sometimes people go, oh, it hasn't resolved. I haven't been able to resolve my issue. Well, there's a balance to everything, right? There's balances to, because even if you're an Orisha worshiper, you still have depression, you still have emotion.
You're still human.
You're still human,
Yes.
exactly. But Orisha helps you.
Yeah, because they went through it.
They help you come through. They help you go through that or navigate that path, right? So that's where it's at. It should be humility and being able to bring you back to the tradition. So that's why I was saying originally when we started, the lineages, the humility, tradition, that's what I think we should do. Or I feel that that's what my job as an Oriate is.
Beautiful. There was a time where Babalawos and Oriades would fraternize seamlessly. Mm-hmm. We've always worked hand in hand.
Yes.
A lot of us, that have assimilated the green and yellow, we walk through Orisha first.
Right.
I personally feel that a conversation such as this is so necessary and so important to get back to those times. My godfather always taught me a refrán. He said, "Vamos a hablar de lo que nos une y no de lo que nos separa."
Right.
Let's speak about what unifies us and not what separates us.
Yes.
Right. I think that it's been a sincere pleasure to collaborate with you on all the things that you supported us through Orisha-wise in our home with the countless number of Santa. Likewise, and the amount we've been able to learn from each other and fraternize together. It's authentic. I mean, how important do you think it is to return to that level of fraternity again across those borders?
I think it's important. It's important.
Because you have your hand of Ifa.
Yeah.
You worked extensively, not just with me, all the balls in my house, all the
exactly.
brothers from before.
Yes.
I worked with all the brothers before because I grew up in an Ifa-centric house.
Yeah.
So I understand. So, but I also remember, since I have to work for multiple places.
You're a man of many hats.
Exactly.
And
I'm
that's
a man
what,
of many hats. So I need to also work.
Yeah.
And I also need to work with
Assimilate.
houses
Yeah.
assimilate
Yeah.
that aren't, and I know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
I could change from one minute to the next.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it was that with all the Ifa brothers that I have, I liked the ability to chat and talk, but now it seems that, well, let's put it this way. Nowadays, I feel like you get Ifa done, and then you're Ifa done, but then you don't take the time.
No, the separations are happening far too quickly.
That's right.
And they're really unnecessary. I mean, when you hear about whether it's the pinado,
Yeah,
right,
whatever.
or the quanado,
Yeah.
they call it the liberation, but you never want to be in a position where you need to feel liberated from your elders.
Right.
Because, you know, one of the greatest moments, at least with me, was when, hey, Padrino, I have an Ifa, please come.
Yeah.
You know, or, oh, I have a plante, camínamelo, or, you know,
Right,
whoever,
whatever.
you know, that's the most gratifying thing when you're able to provide and really organize and orchestrate something and be able to involve the people that bred you towards that. I think now there's too much instant gratification. There's too much, I think the internet and all the options are influencing that as well, where it's like, oh, you don't want to give it to me? I'll find it somewhere else.
Right.
And what we don't realize, whether it's with our parents or godparents, is if we're not being given a certain liberty, it's to protect us somehow.
Right.
And that's where the trust comes in again. Because when I was like, yo, Ma, let me get the car. She's like, I'm not giving you the car. I'm like, oh, but I didn't realize she didn't want me to get in an accident. She
Right.
didn't like the friends I was trying to drive around, you know. It's the same thing. Like, oye, quiero hacer esto. Una pausa. And you have to have faith in the process and the people you've entrusted your well-being into, because the separations are what is weakening us. You know, it's causing a lot of lack of preparation, where, you know, you'll have somebody with a holy Ifa house, que no se sabe la mojubba. They're brokers at best.
Yes.
And that's detrimental. It's not that everybody needs to be an Oba regardless of what side of the line you're on, pero you have to be competent and prepared.
Right.
Because there's going to be certain things you can't outsource. There's going to be certain things that people are going to be like, well, why do we need a third party for this, you know? And I think the preparation and the unity is super key there. I mean, really monumental conversation, in my opinion. We've known each other for many years.
Yes.
Getting you in this chair has been difficult with your schedule.
Yeah.
And I know
I'm a little hard to get hold of.
oh yeah, especially in the summer and spring break, Baya. But you're somebody that has had such a tenure. I mean, to go over all your qualifications and accolades, no amount of time would do it justice. Whether it's in Orisha, whether it's in Malongo, all the different things you've been involved in. I have a closing question for you. It's a little thick.
Okay.
Do you feel like you found your calling within the Oriate position? And apart from that, what message would you give to those that are to follow within this tradition? You know?
Okay. So do I feel have I achieved my calling?
No, I mean, ultimately we're always in that process, but do you feel, I'm talking about, you know, 50 years of doing the same thing. Do you feel nourished? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel like I lived in my purpose?
Yes. And I will explain to you why. This happens to everybody, right? I would assume. Let's put it this way. And it, you know, you shouldn't say assume because you never know, right?
Yeah.
But I would assume that people have gone through this before, where you have moments of doubt, self-doubt, and you feel like separated from your Orisha, right? But the interesting thing is that over these 50 years, I've gotten closer from a person not wanting to do Ogun, right? Right? Not knowing who Ogun was, right? I've actually gotten closer to my Alagbatori, they call it now, right? Okay. I've actually gotten closer to my Alagbatori, which is Ogun. I'm like, wow. And sometimes I look at him and I go, to the icon, and I go, dude. You know, and we've been through a lot together, you know. Actually, I've been with him longer than I've been married.
Yeah.
Did you imagine that?
Shout out to Miss Gwen. Thank you for letting him come by today. Shout out to the boys and to Ma and everybody.
So, yeah. So I look at Ogun and I'm thinking, wow, dude, we've been through a lot.
You think about the term Yawo, we're married to them to a certain degree.
And so I feel now, at this time, closer to that energy that I was initiated to.
Yeah.
And, and I'm thinking, I never thought I would, originally you get it and you get initiated and, okay. And it's that first, the first couple of years, but then you don't know, and then life interferes, and then you're going along. But you know what? Throughout the time, I've, same with Egun, same with Ogun, same with Yamaya, same with Oba Oriate, with Orula and everybody. And I'm thinking, wow, this is something. And you would think, some people might look at him and say, oh, this big pot of steel.
He's always there, though.
But he's always there, dude.
He's always there when you need him.
And you know what? He's, even at the last minute, he's always guiding me in the right direction, which is interesting, right?
The machete.
Always.
El camino siempre está seguro.
I mean, I could be going to, anything. And at the and I'm saying, hey, hurry up.
Yeah, muévete.
Come on. Dude, I'm singing here.
Yeah.
I'm singing. Yeah. What's up, guy?
Yeah.
Come on, I'm singing.
Muévete la cola.
And you know what? And I laugh now because right then when I think that the water's going to, reach.
Entrar por la nariz.
It's going to go through my nose.
Yeah.
My ship's going to sink or whatever. He goes. But the funny thing about it is, he never resolves like you expect him to.
No, he does it his way.
Exactly.
It's precise.
It's his way.
Yes.
And and I laugh at that because those two that I have, Ogun and Yamaya, they're notorious for resolving in their own way.
They're unorthodox. They don't follow anybody else's protocol.
No, you think that they're going to go right and they go left.
No.
Yeah. So that was that. And then what was the second part of the question that you were asking me?
No, you answered it.
I answered it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, what message would you give to those coming and trust in your faith?
You have to trust. You have to trust and then trust in your elders.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, you have to find out from your elders. If your elder doesn't know, have your elder help you find somebody
It's a team.
that can find out.
Yeah.
That's what it works with.
Yeah.
That's why I work with the Oluos because it's a team.
Yes.
It's a team.
Yes.
Now, I worked with all sorts of them, right? From young ones to elders,
right? Hall of Fame, some of the names, big guys, for sure back then. And I would say personally, knowing you, that you embody all of the positive characteristics of Ogun through your leadership, through your precision, through your organization. I feel the same way with Ochung as well, even though my journey is much younger.
Right.
You begin to understand her little by little.
Right.
You kind of fear her a little bit.
Well,
it's a little different. It's a lot of respect. It's a lot of love. But I hope that, Lord willing, if I make it to that moment, that stage, that there is that full circle effect of fulfillment, understanding, and humility. I think that's the biggest thing, is letting go and letting them take the wheel and have that control. That's important too. And having that faith. And I'm speechless. Nothing but love for you from all of us, me, Erica, the whole Our Roots team, Botanica Candles and more. You are esteemed within our home.
Thank
for
you.
Anybody watching, to be able to sit down with a gentleman such as Cosme, especially in this day and age when our religion is going through so many transitions with elders and all these different things, it really is a treat because we have someone that understands the ways of the old and has been able to incorporate that which is new, find a balance to where it's digestible. With your permission, your information is going to be in the description for all those that want to communicate with you. I know your house is booming, your career is in full swing still, and hopefully we can find a moment for them, but they'll definitely be communicating with you. And
the feeling is likewise.
Nice. And
I still can't believe that I'm sitting here, that I actually
no, next time with a bottle of Double Black and some olivas, maybe, if we can, after hours episode for sure. And my regards to Miss Gwen from all of us.
Thank
and
you.
the boys and your mother-in-law and everybody there. And
say hello to your mom too.
Oh, we appreciate it. It's family at this point. We've been to war too many times, and to be able to bring you out and give you a moment of media that really, puts the legacy on the forefront, because you're a very reserved guy. You're a very busy guy.
Right.
You've never really been somebody to look for that, but it was always very important for us to give you that space because you definitely earned it. The years don't go by for no reason. So what do you think, Phil?
Man, that was fantastic.
Yeah, it was epic, man.
I think everybody will definitely enjoy that treat and definitely show their love. But guess what?
Oh man, my members.
Oh, there you
They got the elevator music to shout some people out.
Yeah, it's time to show some love to the people who show love to the channel.
Nice.
If you guys aren't familiar with that, we have a membership platform. It's really simple. Click the button below that says join our membership program. And there's 3 separate tiers. Each tier offers its own goodies.
Very nice, very nice, yeah.
And so today we're going to show some love to our supporters here.
Very nice.
That's our bottom tier, but you guys are definitely not on the bottom. We love all of you
appreciate the
guys.
support.
So, shout out to Melted.
Melted, thank you.
Shout out to Guillermo Carbona.
Nice, Guillermo. The
Shout out
names are wild.
to Gojo Bull.
Yeah, there we go.
Shout out to Richie Conga.
Blessings, Richie. Thank you.
Shout out to 8131 Sana.
Oh, great numbers.
Shout out to Barbara Powers.
Thank you, Barbara.
Shout out to Edward Rodriguez.
Ed, thank you.
Shout out to Nista.
Nice.
And
Bendición.
shout out to Felipe Vasquez.
Felipe, bendiciones. Guys, once again, Mr. Cosme's information will be in the description. Be able to contact him for whatever services. BotanicACandlesandMore.com is up and running for all your product and service needs as well. We do ship. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, be sure to listen to us on all of the major podcast platforms. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And from all of us here at Our Roots Podcast, thank you. And until next time, see the light.
Baba Joseph, show the past today.